In my previous life, my girlfriend and I got matching tattoos of a small rabbit. But who could have known that after the apocalypse arrived, tattoos would become the key to awakening supernatural powers? My girlfriend awakened the spirit rabbit tattoo and kept hiding me, protecting me everywhere we went. Meanwhile, I had no tattoo at all, so I couldn't awaken a single ability. All I could do was helplessly watch as she fought terrifying monsters all by herself. In the end, she gave her life to save me. Filled with regret and pain, I opened my eyes once again, only to discover that I had been reborn exactly one day before the apocalypse. This time, I sold all of my assets and headed straight to a tattoo shop. I swore to myself that this time, I would stand at the very top of the food chain. On my chest, I would have a tattoo of Pangu separating heaven and earth. On my back, a tattoo of 9 dragons pulling a coffin. On my left leg, Donghuang Taiji, and on my right leg, the great monkey king, Qichin Dasheng. The tattoo machines slipped from the hands of all 8 masters. They stared at me as if I had gone completely insane. Kid, do you not value your life? The Pangu tattoo alone is already considered a forbidden destiny tattoo. And on top of that, you want the 9 dragons pulling a coffin tattoo too? That's not some ordinary mythical totem. It's a forbidden tattoo capable of bringing destruction to countless lives. I let out a cold laugh. If 1 million isn't enough, then I'll pay 10 million. I want you to do the tattooing personally, and everyone else will assist you. This entire project must be finished within 7 days. The master's expression instantly changed. 7 days? Have you lost your mind? It's impossible to complete tattoos of this size in only 7 days. I pulled out a list from my pocket and tossed it onto the table. Military-grade recovery gel, bionic repair patches, imported painkillers, anti-infection medication. I've already prepared everything. You just focus on the tattooing. My life is my own responsibility. The master stared at me. For a full 30 seconds, complete silence filled the room. Finally, he picked up the tattoo machine and said in a heavy voice, "Fine. I've spent my entire life tattooing gods and mythical beings, but I've never seen a madman like you. I accept this job." 3 days later, deep within the mountains outside Zhangzhou City stood an abandoned underground facility known as Blackstone Base. From above, it looked like an old Cold War-era air raid shelter. Later, it had been converted into a heavily secured prison, but I knew its true identity. It was actually a sealed underground command center from the old era. Its main structure, energy well, ventilation tunnels, and water storage system still existed even today. I wasn't here to build a new hideout in the wilderness. I was here to reactivate it, strengthen it, and restore its firepower systems. During these 3 days, I had only visited Blackstone Base once. I signed the contracts, inspected the structure, and confirmed that the energy well and ventilation systems were still operational. Everything else was handed over to my lawyers and construction teams. As the most notorious spendthrift rich kid in all of Jiangzhou, I didn't just want to buy the place. I wanted to completely transform it. Without any hesitation, I signed the contract and gave the order. Contact the nation's best security construction team. Within 10 days, I want this place turned into an apocalypse fortress that not even a fly can get into. Build 5-meter-high military-grade alloy walls. Install blast-proof gates, capable of withstanding millions of tons of pressure. Restore the top-level ecological circulation system, and fully reactivate all sealed underground energy alloy facilities. I immediately put down 100 million in cash. The remaining funds will be transferred within 10 days. Don't worry about money. I'll pay triple wages. The construction will continue 24 hours a day. As order after order left my mouth, the entire city of Zhangzhou was shaken. Meanwhile, back at the tattoo shop, the master personally worked the needle across my body. His 3 disciples assisted by filling colors, drawing lines, and cleaning my skin. On my back, the first black dragon of the 9 dragons pulling a coffin tattoo had already been completed. Although its eyes had not yet been drawn, it still radiated a strange and oppressive pressure. My friend Xu Xiaodao sat beside me. The Nezha tattoo on his left arm was nearly finished and looked incredibly fierce. Meanwhile, Zhang Xingyi was inside the private room next door, where a female tattoo artist was completing the fine details of his 9 heavenly goddess tattoo. My phone remained beside me the entire time. Messages constantly poured in from lawyers, agents, construction teams, and material suppliers. On one side, I endured the agony of countless tattoo needles. On the other, I was busy selling off all my assets to purchase that abandoned prison hidden deep within the mountains. At that moment, I opened a live streaming app and entered the #1 trending stream in the city. The host was none other than my sworn enemy, Xu Rui, the son of Jiangzhou's richest man. In the live stream, Xu Rui sat inside his luxurious mansion, located in the heart of the city. He swirled a glass of red wine in his hand while laughing so hard he could barely breathe. What the hell happened to Qin Li? Did he suffer some massive mental breakdown? He actually went and covered his entire body with gangster-style tattoos. Honestly, I can't stop laughing. As the camera shifted, a new red flower-shaped tattoo became visible near Zhou Yuxing's waist. It was as bright as blood and carried a mysterious aura. I glanced at it once, and my eyes instantly turned cold. The blood flower tattoo. In my previous life, Zhou Yuxing never had that tattoo. Looks like she had put in quite a bit of effort this time just to please Xu Rui. Excitedly, Xu Rui looked into the camera and said, "Guys, who would even believe this? Not only did Qin Li waste money on that broken-down bunker in the mountains, but I also heard he spent over 100 million buying up pork and rice from supermarkets everywhere. It looks like he really plans to spend the rest of his life living inside that bunker." The moment those words were spoken, the live stream chat exploded. Damn, being poor has limited my imagination. Are all rich people's brains this advanced? Xiang Xingyi is our goddess, and she actually moved into the bunker with him. I'm so jealous. This guy is completely mentally unstable. He should be sent straight to a psychiatric hospital. Watching the endless mockery and ridicule spreading across the internet, Xu Xiaodao trembled with rage. Brother Li, that bastard Xu Rui. But while feeling the pain of the needle piercing my skin, I continued staring at Xu Rui's arrogant arrogant face on the screen. There was no anger in my eyes, only calmness. The higher he's jumping right now, the harder he'll cry later. Shout out, keep an eye on all the supply trucks. There can't be a single mistake in the construction of our Apocalypse Fortress. A full 7 days had passed since my rebirth. During those 7 days, I barely stepped outside this underground room. Raster Gifu and his 3 disciples worked in shifts around the clock. During the day, they drew the lines. At night, they filled in the colors. And late into the night, they repaired and refined the tattoos. To protect my skin, I had also purchased military-grade recovery gel and bionic repair patches from the black market. Every time a section was completed, it was immediately sealed with recovery gel. Otherwise, my skin would have collapsed long ago under such an intense process. Late on the 7th night, the sound of the tattoo machine finally came to a stop. The Neja and Erlang Shen tattoos on Xu Xiaodao's arms had already been completed 2 days earlier. Zhang Xingyi's 9 Heavens Mystic Maiden tattoo had also been finished yesterday. And now, the 4 great forbidden totems on my body were finally complete. Pengyu creating the world on my chest, 9 dragons pulling a coffin on my back, Dongguang Tai on my left leg, and the Great Monkey King on my right leg. Master Gifu removed his gloves and looked at the artwork covering my body before letting out a long breath. It's finished. I've spent my entire life creating tattoos, but I've never completed a project of this scale. Pongu, 9 dragons, Dongguang Tai and the Great Monkey King. With this single masterpiece alone, no one in the entire Zhangzhou tattoo world will ever be able to claim they're above me, Gifu. I stood up from the chair and walked over to the mirror. The 4 forbidden totems stretched across my chest, back, and legs. Every line looked ancient, heavy, and razor sharp. Especially the 9 dragons pulling a coffin tattoo on my back. 9 black dragons coiled upward on both sides, soaring toward the sky. Their gleaming scales overlapped one another. Their 9 tails converged in the center of my back, pulling an ancient black coffin. Mysterious chains were wrapped around the coffin. Even though it was only a tattoo, just looking at it created a strange pressure on the heart. Xu Xiaodao circled around me, examining the tattoos from every angle before unconsciously swallowing. This looks way too dangerous. If I hadn't watched it being created with my own eyes, I'd think it would come alive on its own in the middle of the night. I put on my clothes and covered all of the tattoos. For now, they're only tattoos. But when the red moon descends, that's when they'll truly awaken. Xiaodao froze. The red moon? I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled out my phone and checked the time. Only 12 days remained before the arrival of the red moon. Let's go to Blackstone Base. It's time to inspect our Apocalypse Fortress. 2 hours later, we arrived at Blackstone Base in the mountainous region outside Zhangzhou City. The initial construction had already been completed. The underground ventilation system, energy core, and ecological circulation system had all been restored and reactivated. Over the next 12 days, I barely rested. Diesel fuel, heavy off-road vehicles, backup generators, military-grade protective suits, and every survival supply that could possibly be purchased. I bought all of them. To the outside world, it looked like I had completely lost my mind, but only I knew the truth. Civilized society didn't have much time left. One day before the arrival of the red moon, the final shipment reached Blackstone Base. Inside the warehouse, mountains of rice, flour, drinking water, canned food, fresh meat, medicine, diesel fuel, backup generators, and military-grade protective suits were stacked everywhere. The 3-story underground warehouse was almost completely full. Xu Xiaodao stood at the entrance with his eyes wide open. Brother Li, are you planning to live here until your next life? Jiang Xingyi silently observed everything. She already knew that I had stockpiled massive amounts of supplies. But when she saw this enormous underground warehouse with her own eyes, even her brows furrowed. Qin, what exactly are you afraid of? I didn't answer immediately. Slowly, I walked to the center of the warehouse and raised my right hand. The next moment, a flash of light appeared. Thousands of tons of supplies stacked across all 3 floors suddenly vanished into thin air. The warehouse that had been packed just seconds ago became completely empty. Only the marks left by the immense weight remained behind, along with the lingering smell of diesel and grain in the air. Xu Xiaodao froze in place. First, he blinked. Then he rubbed his eyes. Finally, he ran into the middle of the warehouse. After circling the empty floor 3 times, he suddenly turned toward me. Even his voice had changed. What the hell? Where did everything go? This warehouse was completely full. I only blinked once, and thousands of tons of supplies disappeared. Is this some kind of magic? Jiang Xingyi's reaction wasn't as dramatic as Xiaodao's, but even in her usually calm eyes, the shock was impossible to hide. She slowly walked up to me. Qin Li, what exactly is all of this? I remained silent for a moment. There was no point hiding the truth anymore. Less than 24 hours remained before the red moon arrived. They needed to know the truth. I spoke softly. This is a pocket space. It's related to some special changes that happened to my body. I still didn't reveal the entire truth about my rebirth. It wasn't because I didn't trust them, but revealing too much right now would only increase their mental burden. I continued. You only need to know one thing. This space can store enormous amounts of supplies. Time inside it is almost completely frozen. Food won't spoil. Medicine won't expire. Diesel, weapons, and precious metals can also remain preserved for an extremely long time. Xu Xiaodao's mouth hung wide open. So you didn't buy all these supplies to store them in a warehouse? You bought them so you could carry them with you? Brother Li, what exactly are you hiding from us? I took a deep breath and slowly said, tomorrow night, when the red moon rises into the sky, you'll understand everything. Tomorrow night, at exactly midnight, the moon in the sky would turn blood red. Immediately afterward, black mist would emerge from the depths of the earth and cover the entire world. Every animal and plant would mutate like mad. They would become monsters that fed on human flesh. Plants would devour the living. Cities would lose all order within a matter of hours. And human civilization would collapse in a single night. A deathly silence filled the warehouse. Xu Xiaodao's lips moved. But this time, he didn't crack a joke. Just a few minutes ago, he had watched thousands of tons of supplies vanish into thin air with his own eyes. That scene had shattered everything he thought he knew about the world. Jiang Xingyi didn't argue either. She simply looked into my eyes and quietly asked, "Proof?" I replied calmly. "What you just saw is one piece of evidence, and the tattoos on your bodies are the second." Jiang Xingyi instinctively glanced at the tattoo on her body. I continued, "The energy of the red moon will activate the tattoos engraved on human bodies. They will no longer remain ordinary tattoos. They will become real totem avatars. Normal tattoos will only provide basic physical enhancement. Fierce beast tattoos will grant transformation abilities. As for mythical totems, they will awaken true avatar powers. The older and more complete the totem is, the stronger its destiny becomes. And after awakening, the more terrifying its power will be." Su Xiaodao suddenly understood. "So that's why you had me get the Neja and Erlang Shen tattoos, so I could survive." I nodded. "Both Neja and Erlang Shen are top-tier mythical totems. If you can endure the Red Moon's awakening process, you'll become far stronger than most awakeners." I looked toward Jiang Xingyi. "Xingyi, your Nine Heavens Mystic Maiden totem grants multiple high-level abilities: attack, defense, purification, and battlefield command. In the future, as mental corruption, poison, pollution, and spiritual erosion become more severe, your totem will become incredibly important." Jiang Xingyi took a deep breath. The disbelief on her face was slowly fading. In its place, tension began to appear. "So, you sold all your assets, you bought Blackstone Base, you stockpiled all these resources, and you had us get these tattoos. This wasn't some sudden decision. You already knew something huge was going to happen." I didn't answer, but my silence was already the clearest answer. Suddenly, Su Xiaodao's expression changed. "Wait, Brother Li, what about my parents? They're still running their repair shop in the southern district of the city." I immediately replied, "Don't worry, I already sent people to pick them up." Su Xiaodao froze. "What did you say?" I turned my phone screen toward him. A real-time security convoy feed was playing. An armored business vehicle was parked on a street in the old southern district. The door opened. Two security guards dressed in black combat uniforms were helping a middle-aged couple into the vehicle. The man was of average height. His skin was darkened by years under the sun. His hands were stained with oil and grease from repairing vehicles for most of his life. The moment Su Xiaodao saw them, his eyes turned red. I spoke softly. "I already contacted uncle and aunt before this. I used the excuse that Blackstone Base needed maintenance and logistics staff. They don't know anything about the apocalypse. They only know that I'm hiring them for a few days at a very high salary. The convoy will arrive here in 20 minutes. Su Xiaodao's lips trembled, but for a long time, no words came out. In my previous life, after the Red Moon arrived, he risked his life to return to the southern district and save his parents. But by then, the entire area had already been overrun by hordes of mutated rats. All he found was his father's broken wrench, and his mother's old apron, the one she never wanted to throw away. After that, Su Xiaodao fought and killed like a madman every single day. Although he didn't die in the early stages of the apocalypse, the pain never left him. But in this life, I would never let him experience that tragedy again." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry. This time, uncle and aunt's safety is my responsibility." Su Xiaodao lowered his head. His shoulders trembled slightly. A long time later, he finally looked up. His eyes were completely red. "Brother Li, thank you." I simply smiled. Jiang Xingyi quietly watched everything. After a while, she asked in a soft voice, "What about my father?" I answered calmly, "Uncle Jiang is completely safe. You know that your father, Jiang Chengwan, is one of Dragon Nation's top energy research academicians. Half a month ago, the military transferred him to the capital's underground base. He's currently working on the highest level energy core project. At this moment, that's one of the safest places in the entire Dragon Nation." Hearing that, Jiang Xingyi finally let out a sigh of relief. Then, after a brief pause, I continued, "As for your mother," my voice softened. Jiang Xingyi's mother had passed away from illness many years ago. It had always been the deepest wound in her heart. Jiang Xingyi didn't ask anything else. She simply nodded gently. "I understand." I looked at both of them and spoke in a serious tone. "From this moment onward, Blackstone Base will be completely sealed. No one is allowed to leave this base." Su Xiaodao took a deep breath and nodded. Jiang Xingyi also unconsciously touched the Nine Heavens Mystic Maiden tattoo on her back. I raised my head and looked toward the night beyond the fortress. All preparations were complete. Now, all that remained was to wait for the right moment. The next morning, Su Xiaodao's parents were settled into the safest living cabin within Blackstone Base's underground residential area. Xu Jiangguo had been a soldier in his younger days. Although he had no idea what was about to happen, the moment he saw the fortress's security measures, he immediately sensed that something unusual was going on. He didn't ask many questions. Instead, he simply patted Su Xiaodao's shoulder and said, "Stay by President Qin's side and work hard." Meanwhile, Li Guolan had been busy in the kitchen since early morning. She prepared a huge pot of steaming hot dumplings for all of us. As Su Xiaodao ate, his eyes gradually turned red again, but he didn't say a word, because once the apocalypse arrived, a warm homemade meal like this would become an impossible dream for countless people. The previous night, I had already stored all remaining supplies inside my pocket space. At dawn, the final heavy carbon alloy gate of Blackstone Base was completely sealed shut. The entire underground fortress glowed with bright lights. The underground energy core, which had been dormant for years, was now operating at full capacity. On the monitoring screens, a complete 360-degree view of the outside world was displayed. Su Xiaodao stood in front of the monitor, holding a bowl of dumplings in his hands. Meanwhile, Jiang Xingyi stood before the massive screen, inspecting the external defense systems. The Nine Heavens Mystic Maiden tattoo on her body had fully healed. The cold and calm aura she already possessed now carried a sharp, blade-like edge. At that moment, a trending news notification appeared on my phone. Xu Rui had started another live stream. On the screen, he was still hosting a lavish party inside his luxurious villa located in the heart of the city. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, music, beautiful women, and the sons and daughters of wealthy families. The entire atmosphere was extravagantly luxurious. I checked the time. Less than 1 hour remained before the arrival of the Red Moon. Holding Zhou Yuxing in his arms, Xu Rui looked into the camera and laughed. Everyone, did you see that? That lunatic Chin Li is probably hiding in some mountain bunker by now. He sold all his property. He stockpiled mountains of pork and rice. And he even dragged Jiang Xingyi along to get tattoos. Does he seriously think the world is about to end? Zhou Yuxing leaned against his chest and laughed. Young Master Shu, honestly, I can't wait to see how Chin Li handles his humiliation tomorrow. Shu Rei swirled his wine glass and laughed even harder. If nothing happens tonight, I'll personally take people to that mountain bunker tomorrow. I'll tear the whole place apart. And then I'll personally send him to a mental hospital. Millions of viewers were laughing in the live stream. The chat room was overflowing with mockery and ridicule. But inside Blackstone Base, the only sound was the low hum of the energy core. I glanced at my watch, 11:59:50 p.m. Only 10 seconds remained before the arrival of the Red Moon. The outside world was still celebrating. Meanwhile, complete silence filled our fortress. 10, 9, 8. I slowly put down the fork and spoon in my hands. 3, 2, 1. The instant the countdown ended, an ancient and terrifying roar echoed from deep within the earth itself. The entire planet shook violently. Shu Ru, who had been laughing moments earlier on the live stream, suddenly froze because outside the massive windows of his villa, the bright moon hanging in the sky had turned blood red in an instant. It looked like a gigantic eye filled with blood, an eye staring directly at all of humanity. Immediately afterward, dense black mist began rising from beneath the earth. Within moments, it engulfed the entire city of Zhangzhou. What the hell is that? The moon really turned red. Shu Rui's scream echoed through the live stream. The wine glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. Yet he didn't even notice. At that exact moment, the purebred poodle, sitting on Zhou Yuxing's lap, suddenly released a horrifying roar. Right before the eyes of millions of viewers, its body began swelling like a balloon. Black fur rapidly spread across its body. Its eyes turned crimson, and razor-sharp fangs erupted from its mouth. The next second, the mutated poodle lunged at Zhou Yuxing. Its claws tore through her shoulder and slammed her onto the floor. The camera shook violently. Screams filled the live stream. Young Master Shu, save me. Zhou Yuxing's face had turned deathly pale with fear. She reached towards Shu Rui for help, but Shu Rui himself was already trembling in terror. Stay away from me. Don't come near me. Panicking, he stumbled backward. He even kicked away Zhou Yuxing's outstretched hand. Then he turned and ran toward the stairs. Zhou Yuxing collapsed on the floor. Her clothes were rapidly turning red with blood. Her entire body trembled uncontrollably, but the only thing she saw was Shu Rui's retreating back. The mutated poodle slowly approached her once again. Its blood-red eyes remained fixed on her. The live stream chat exploded. Somebody save her. Shu Rui ran away. He was talking about love just a minute ago. It's over. The last traces of hope in Zhou Yuxing's eyes slowly disappeared. In their place, only hatred and rage remained. At that very moment, the blood-red spider lily tattoo on her waist suddenly lit up. Waves of crimson light burst from her body. One by one, scarlet flower petals began appearing in the air. Behind her, an endless sea of blood-colored flowers emerged. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. In a cold voice, she said, "So, even you abandoned me?" Shu Rui had already reached the stairs. Hearing those words, he stopped. He turned around, and the next instant, all color drained from his face. Countless spider lilies had already spread beneath Zhou Yuxing's feet. They swayed like living creatures. Flowering vines shot forward and wrapped around the mutated poodle's legs. The monstrous beast that had looked so ferocious moments ago suddenly appeared trapped inside a nightmare. It collapsed onto the ground and began trembling violently. Using the wall for support, Zhou Yuxing slowly stood up. The wound on her shoulder was already covered with crimson flowers. A mysterious smile appeared on her face. The live stream completely exploded. Holy crap! She awakened. Flowers are blooming all over her body. What kind of power is this? This is terrifying. The next moment, the screen went black. The live stream abruptly ended. I stared at the dark screen of my phone. A cold smile appeared on my lips. The yellow spring spider lily. When its flowers bloom, they never leave a path back. Zhou Yuxing truly chose a fitting destiny for herself in this life. At that moment, Xu Xiaodao's trembling voice sounded beside me. Brother Li, everything outside has fallen apart. He was staring at the city displayed on the monitoring screens. I immediately said, "Don't look outside. Focus your mind." Because at that very moment, the energy of the red moon had already pierced through the thick layers of rock surrounding the base and reached our bodies. Xu Xiaodao and Jiang Xingyi both groaned in pain. The red moon's energy surged into them like molten lava. The Neja tattoo on Xu Xiaodao's left arm transformed into blazing fire. The third eye of Erlong Shen on his right arm suddenly opened, releasing dazzling golden light in every direction. Meanwhile, the Nine Heavens mystic maiden totem on Jiang Xingyi's back transformed into pure radiance. A divine aura lifted her into the air. Her calm presence now seemed holy and untouchable. Both of them had awakened. They had successfully completed their awakening. But what was happening to me was far more terrifying. The red moon energy entering my body was more than 10 times greater than theirs. Suddenly, 9 deep dragon roars echoed throughout the entire underground fortress. The 9 dragons pulling a coffin totem on my back had fully awakened. 9 gigantic black dragon phantoms emerged from my back. Their bodies were as massive as mountains. Their scales gleamed with an icy, deathly light. Their crimson eyes opened simultaneously. Behind them floated an ancient black coffin. The crimson black chains wrapped around the coffin began tightening one after another, and an indescribable pressure descended upon the entire fortress. An indescribable forbidden pressure spread throughout the entire underground fortress. Xu Xiaodao's face turned pale, and he stumbled several steps backward. Even the 9 Heavens mystic maiden avatar, standing behind Jiang Xingyi, trembled slightly. It was as if it had instinctively sensed danger. The Dongwang Taiyi totem on my left leg ignited with a sun-like flame. It felt as though it could burn the entire world to ashes. On my right leg, the shadow of the great monkey king appeared. An endless battle intent erupted from within him. It was the kind of power that dared to challenge heaven and earth themselves. All 4 supreme totems had awakened simultaneously, but in the very next moment I forcefully suppressed them. The 4 forbidden totems were simply too powerful. My current strength wasn't enough to maintain all of them at full activation without paying a heavy price. Pangi, represented absolute power. The 9 dragons pulling a coffin represented suppression and destruction. At that moment, a mutated boar king released a terrifying roar and charged toward me with all 4 legs. Its massive body crushed the ground beneath it like a heavily armored tank. Brother Lee, be careful. Su Xiaodao instinctively rushed forward to help. Stand back. I spoke only 2 cold words. I didn't move an inch. I didn't retreat, and I didn't try to dodge. The moment the boar king's spear-like tusks were about to pierce my chest, I moved, no complicated technique, no flashy move. I simply raised my right hand and clenched my fist. Pangu's power. The words echoed silently in my mind. The Pangu totem on my chest suddenly erupted with deep golden light. A vague ancient giant phantom began gathering around my fist. The next second, I punched. Boom! The mutated boar king, weighing several tons, didn't even get a chance to scream. Its enormous body collapsed to the ground like a pile of mud. A level 1 peak beast king, instantly killed with a single punch. At the same moment, 9 deep dragon roars echoed from my back. The massive shadow of the 9 dragons pulling a coffin appeared behind me. 9 black dragons slowly opened their blood-red eyes, pulling the ancient black coffin. They began circling through the sky. 9 dragon suppression. My voice rang out. Rumble. The shadow of the black coffin trembled slightly. The next instant, a pressure descended that felt as though it had emerged from the deepest abyss of hell itself. The entire forest was submerged beneath that terrifying force. Every low-level mutated beast in the surrounding area collapsed to the ground in fear. Jiang Jingyi stood behind me. Even in her normally calm eyes, traces of shock were clearly visible. I offered no explanation. Instead, I walked directly toward the dead mutated boar king and cut off its head. From inside its brain, a thumb-sized crimson crystal emerged. I picked it up and held it in my palm. A beast core, the most important resource after the apocalypse. A faint smile appeared on my lips. The first prophet of the apocalypse. I placed the crystal core into my pocket space. The moment it entered, I clearly felt the pocket space tremble slightly. Its expansion was minimal, but it had genuinely become larger. In my previous life, humanity quickly discovered that beast cores weren't only useful for increasing an awakener's strength, they could also strengthen storage spaces. I looked toward Xu Xiaodao and Jiang Xingyi. Collect all the beast cores, and don't waste the meat. After evolution, their meat can be preserved for a long time. Understood. Xu Xiaodao immediately became excited, but right then, chaotic screams echoed from the distant mountain road. Help! Save us! We turned around. About a dozen people were desperately running toward our location in terrible condition. They stumbled and fell as they sprinted toward Blackstone Base. Behind them, several mutated bloodblade mantises, each as large as a cheetah, were chasing them. I narrowed my eyes. The man running at the front looked familiar. Liu Feidi, the contractor who had handled the outer construction work of Blackstone Base. In my previous life, after I had fallen into ruin, this man and his companions pushed me even deeper into disaster. They had used me as bait to save themselves. Boss Qin. Young Master Qin, please save us. Liu Feidi screamed as he ran toward me. Hurry and let us inside. We're all people from Jiangzhou. You can't leave us here to die. I remained where I was, silently staring at him with cold eyes. Can't leave you here to die. A frost-like chill flashed through my gaze. Back in my previous life, when you people shoved me into the jaws of death, did you remember that we were all from the same city? Liu Feidi froze. He couldn't understand the meaning behind my words, but he could clearly understand the look in my eyes. That wasn't the gaze of a savior. It was the gaze of someone looking at a dead man. Slowly, I raised my right hand. My bunker doesn't allow garbage inside. After saying that, I snapped my fingers. The next moment, the massive alloy wall surrounding Blackstone Base suddenly activated. Millions of volts of high-voltage electricity surged across its surface. Crack! Boom! 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 The bloodblade mantises charging at the front slammed directly into the electrified wall. Several mutated mantises were blasted into the air and thrown far away while burning. Liu Feidi's face instantly turned as white as ashes. Terrified, he collapsed onto the ground. Young Master Qin, I was wrong. I really was wrong. But I didn't even look at him again. I don't slaughter innocent people for no reason. But I don't save enemies. And evil people deserve to be eliminated. I turned around and walked back toward the bunker. Behind me, the massive alloy gate slowly began to close. The screams and panic outside the gate were soon swallowed by the darkness and by the mutated beasts. By the third day after the Red Moon's arrival, the outside world had completely transformed into hell. The streets were littered with wrecked vehicles and ruined buildings. Stray cats and dogs had grown as large as bulls. They hunted the remaining humans in packs throughout the city. Yet at that exact same time, the smell of buttered hot pot filled Blackstone Bunker's dining area. Xu Xiaodao spoke while chewing a mouthful of food. Brother Li, if the apocalypse means eating like this every day, I honestly don't have any complaints. Jiang Xingyi shot him a glare. Go outside and take a look first, then say that again. Xu Xiaodao immediately fell silent. I took a sip of cold beer and leaned back against the sofa. For a brief moment, the apocalypse didn't feel quite so terrible. Suddenly, a piercing alarm echoed throughout the fortress. Beep, beep. Warning. A large number of heat signatures have been detected within the outer security zone. Asterisk. I immediately pulled up the monitoring screens. About 1 kilometer away from the bunker, a massive crowd was advancing toward us along the mountain road like a dark storm cloud. There were at least 500 to 600 people. Many carried machetes and steel clubs. Others were armed with automatic rifles. Leading them was a bald, heavily built man. Wrapped around his body was the tattoo of a gigantic crimson python. Long Wu, the leader of the Qinglong gang. In my previous life, this man had terrorized the early apocalypse using the power of his S-rank blood python totem. I hadn't expected him to set his sights on my bunker this early. On the screen, Long Wu rested a massive blade on his shoulder and shouted, "You cowards hiding inside. I know you've stockpiled enough food to last several lifetimes. Open the gate right now. Hand over all your supplies and all your women. If I'm in a good mood, I might spare your lives. Otherwise, I'll blow this entire bunker apart today." Xu Xiaodao jumped to his feet in anger. These bastards are even eyeing Jiang Xingyi, but I simply smiled. Relax, we spent hundreds of millions on the defense system. It deserves a chance to prove itself. Outside, Long Wu waited for quite some time. When no response came, he roared furiously. Don't even have the guts to show your faces. Prepare the rocket launchers. Blow that gate apart. 3 rocket rocket streaked through the night sky and slammed into the bunker entrance. Boom! Boom! The explosions thundered across the mountains. Members of the Qinglong gang erupted in celebration. It must be destroyed. What? Apocalypse Fortress. In front of Boss Long, it's all trash. But as the smoke cleared, every smile froze. The enormous silver alloy gate still stood there. Not even a scratch had appeared on its surface. Long Wu's expression twisted. Attack again. At that moment, metal panels mounted along the walls slowly opened. Plick, plick, plick. High compartments revealed 12 six-barreled Gatling heavy machine guns. Their dark muzzles pointed directly at the crowd. Sitting calmly in the monitoring room with a glass of wine in my hand, I said, "Give them one warning." The next second, the external broadcast system echoed across the mountains. "This is private property belonging to Blackstone Base. Leave immediately. Otherwise, you will bear full responsibility for the consequences." Private property? Long Wu burst into laughter. "To hell with private property. Everyone, attack." I calmly placed my wine glass on the table. Fire. The next second, all 12 Gatling guns roared simultaneously. Rat-a-tat. A storm of armor-piercing bullets swept across the mountain road. Members of the Qinglong gang dropped by the dozens. In just 30 seconds, the entire area became a sea of screams. More than 200 gang members collapsed onto the ground. The survivors turned and fled in terror. I remained seated inside the monitoring room. Not a single emotion appeared on my face. In the apocalypse, some people simply aren't worth saving. Ceasefire. I shut down the firing system. Outside, the crowd of 500 to 600 people had been reduced to less than half. Long Wu remained standing, covered in blood. "You bastard. I'll never let you live." Crimson scales covered his entire body. As an S-rank blood python awakener, his life force and defense far exceeded those of ordinary people. Normal bullets weren't enough to kill him. Earth-type awakeners, start digging tunnels. We're not leaving until everyone inside is dead. Several awakeners with pangolin totems immediately began digging into the ground. I looked at the screen and let out a cold laugh. They're in a hurry to die. I stood up. "Xiaodao, Xingyi, hold down the base. I'll go take out the trash." The massive alloy gate slowly opened. I stepped outside alone. Long Wu threw his head back and laughed. "So you've finally accepted death and come out." At his signal, more than 200 surviving gang members charged at me with their weapons. I remained standing where I was. Then slowly, I stepped forward with my left foot. The Dongwang totem on my left leg erupted with deep golden light. An overwhelming heat spread through the area. It felt as though the entire world was about to melt. Solar true fire. I slammed my foot into the ground. Boom! A sea of golden flames exploded outward. The dozens of gang members charging at the front were blasted into the air the moment they touched it. The ground turned black. Metal weapons melted into liquid steel. The heat was so terrifying that no one dared approach me. With a single strike, more than 200 people were completely broken. Only seconds later, the battlefield was empty. Now, only Long Wu remained standing. His knees trembled violently. Then, thud, he dropped to his knees. "Monster, what the hell are you?" I slowly walked toward him. With every step I took, his sanity crumbled further. Impossible. This can't be the power of an F-rank awakener. Impossible. Suddenly madness flashed through his eyes. He bit down on his tongue and sprayed blood onto his blood python tattoo. The next moment, his bones began stretching. Scales erupted across his body. His entire form started changing. Within seconds, he transformed into a gigantic blood python over 20 meters long and as thick as a water tank. "Shrank totem! Complete awakening!" He roared like a madman. "I'll swallow you whole." The giant python opened its jaws. Its mouth was large enough to swallow a car. It lunged straight at me. The foul wind generated by its attack was strong enough to send rocks flying from the ground. I laughed. Getting bigger doesn't make you stronger. I stepped forward with my right foot. Great sage equal to heaven. Battle against the heavens. The Sun Wukong totem on my right leg exploded with golden light. A battle aura that seemed capable of reaching the heavens erupted in every direction. The next instant, my body became enveloped in golden radiance. The blood flowing through my veins felt like roaring dragons. Behind me appeared a gigantic battle avatar. It wore brilliant golden armor. A phoenix wing crown rested upon its head. The moment its golden eyes opened, it felt as though the black mist covering the sky had been torn apart. The blood python charged at me, but instead of retreating, I rushed directly toward it. My body shot through the air like a cannonball. With a single leap, I landed on its lower jaw and forcefully kicked its enormous head backward. The blood python screamed in agony. Its gigantic body twisted wildly, trying to throw me off, but I stood atop its head like a king standing on a mountain peak. No matter how violently it struggled, it couldn't move me even an inch. Enraged, the blood python swung its colossal tail. Every tree and boulder in its path shattered into pieces. I slowly raised my right hand, and behind me, the Sun Wukong avatar raised its hand as well. In the void, a gigantic staff forged from golden battle flames began to take shape. Ancient symbols carved across its surface lit up one after another. It looked exactly like the legendary Ruyi Jingu Bang. I firmly grasped the shadow of the staff. At that instant, a terrifying battle energy surged through my entire body. Kneel. I swung the staff with all my strength. Boom. The golden staff collided with the blood python's massive tail. The air itself shattered. A shockwave exploded through the forest like a raging storm. That tail, powerful enough to crush armored vehicles, was completely shattered by a single strike. Its scales burst apart, and the entire tail was sent flying backward. For the first time, fear appeared in the blood python's eyes. Impossible. I'm an S-rank blood python. How can you suppress me? Standing atop its head, I looked down at it. Because your so-called S-rank is nothing in front of forbidden totems. With that, I gripped the golden staff with both hands and raised it high. Behind me, the Sun Wukong avatar suddenly began to grow. 10 meters, 30 meters, 50 meters. In the end, it transformed into a colossal golden battle form that towered into the heavens. Black mist swirled beneath its feet. The blood moon hung above its head, and the golden staff in its hand resembled a heavenly pillar supporting the sky itself. The next moment, it struck the blood python's weak point with all its power. Battle heaven smash! Boom! It felt as though the entire mountain had been launched into the air. The earth split apart. Countless rocks were blasted skyward. The blood python's gigantic body was smashed directly into the ground. Its scales burst apart one after another. Terrifying battle energy surged through its bones and shattered every ounce of life force within its body. The blood python's eyes contracted. Its body twitched several times, then became completely still forever. The remaining force of that attack even swept away the black mist covering the entire mountain. I dispersed the shadow of the golden staff and calmly landed back on the ground. Behind me, the Sun Wukong avatar slowly faded away. Only the totem on my right leg still emitted a faint golden glow. Long Wu, an S-rank awakener, had been killed with a single strike. Using my hand like a blade, I cut open the blood python's head and removed a beast core that radiated a deep crimson light. Not bad. A core born from an S-rank totem is at least worth something. I placed it into my pocket space and began walking back toward the bunker. Behind me, neither the wounded nor the surviving gang members dared to raise their heads and look at me. After the battle ended, I collected hundreds of beast cores. Most of them were low-level cores, but the quantity was enormous. As their energy was absorbed into the pocket space, I could clearly feel the space continuously expanding. My origin power was also becoming stronger than before. But the thing that brought me the greatest satisfaction was something else entirely. The 9 dragons pulling a coffin totem on my back had become far clearer than before. On the ancient black coffin, one of the 9 chain seals wrapped around it had begun to move slightly. I closed my eyes and carefully sensed the information flowing from the totem. The 9 dragons pulling a coffin wasn't merely a suppression-type totem. Its true power was devouring beast cores, devouring enemy totem fragments, devouring any form of energy that could be converted into strength. That energy would then be returned to me, strengthening my body, strengthening my origin power, and strengthening my pocket space. The name of this ability was Coffin Devour. However, the first chain had not completely opened yet. To fully activate it, I would need even higher level beast cores. At minimum, a level 5 beast core. Level 5 core. I opened my eyes and smiled. In my previous life, not long after the arrival of the Red Moon, a level 5 sea beast appeared in the Eastern Sea. It had nearly destroyed all of Jiangzhou, but in this life, its core would belong to me. Friends, that's all the available chapters of this manhwa so far. Alright guys, quick update. Part 2 isn't available anywhere on the internet right now. But I already have the storyline. That means I can create part 2 myself, with full visuals, animations, effects, and everything. The only thing I need from you is support. The moment this channel reaches 5,000 subscribers, I'll start working on part 2 and bring it exclusively to you guys. I'm not asking you to like the video. I'm not asking you to comment. Just hit that subscribe button. It's literally one click. But for me, it's the motivation I need to spend hours creating part 2. And if you're hearing this right now, it means you're one of the real ones who watched till the end. So I'm talking directly to you. If you want part 2, subscribe to the channel. Let's hit 5,000 subscribers together, and I'll see you in part 2.